Good evening, everyone. Let's call to order the Town of Oakland Commission meeting for April 8th, 2025. If I could please stand for the pledge or remain standing for the invocation. Okay, Mr. Cox. Amen. Thank you, Kevin, for the invocation. Appreciate it. All right, Elise.
Commissioner Keller, Commissioner McMullen, Commissioner Ramos,
Present.
Vice Mayor Satterfield, Mayor Taylor.
Here.
We are all here.
All right, great. Thank you. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the first item on the list is our consent agenda, and it's our minutes from the 3/25/25 commission meeting, and also a temporary easement for North Jefferson Street between the town of Oakland and the developer. Any questions or comments on that? No?
Accept the consent agenda.
Okay, second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Other policy matters tonight is our water system capacity evaluation report that was prepared by, I believe, Kimley Horn tonight. So Elise, you're going to lead us in that one?
Yes, I'm just going to read a comment that Mr. Parker left for me. So Mike is out of town, but wanted to provide this information as soon as possible. Assessment has been underway for nearly a year. This is the first of 2 independent reviews of our water system that will impact future development decisions. Steve Romano and Tucker Hunter from Kimley Horn are here tonight to present the findings and to answer questions. So I'd like to ask them to come forward and do their presentation.
Thank you, guys. When you speak, could you please speak into the mic so we can pick you all up? Thanks.
First off, thank you for Mayor and Commissioners for having us out here tonight. My name's Tucker Hunter with Kimley Horn. This is Steve Romano. First, we've been working with the town for over 6 years, working with Mike Parker. I've done a couple of subject sewer jobs with him. So we definitely enjoy working with Mike and your staff. So thank you for having us. So we did a water system capacity evaluation analysis for the town. And with that came a visual inspection of the current water treatment plant. We also looked at capacity. We understand that there's upcoming developments. So we looked at that as well, along with a summary of our recommendations for the analysis. A little bit of a background, the current water treatment plant is rated for 2.392 million gallons per day, which is a max day permitted capacity from FDEP. When we started this analysis, there were over 600 connections in the town. 1,600 connections within the town, sorry. And there are currently 1,760 connections as of March 2025, based off the MOR data that's provided to DEP. As I said, we did our inspection about a year ago. If you go to the next slide.
I'll jump in and correct him when I need to.
He's good at doing that. So the existing system components. So your water treatment plant is just right outside these doors. We ended up doing a visual inspection of the equipment, and the equipment that you currently have on site that we looked at were, you have 3 wells that pump to the ground storage tank, which is right behind us. That ground storage tank then is pumped, then holds water, and then it's pumped through high service pumps into your distribution system that's disinfected water. On top of that, you also have your beautiful elevated storage tank that's right here outside the doors as well. And then you have the ABC booster pump station. And we'll show a map of what that looks like on the next slide. So as you see, most of your facility is right out these doors and is located within the historic portion of the town. Then you have your ABC booster pump station, which is just on the other side of the turnpike. Based off our visual inspection, we noted two things. One is needing to replace your two 500-gallon tanks for your sodium hypochlorite. What was that? Sorry. Oh, can you go back? Can you go back one? Yes, ma'am. Which you'll see here are your recommendations on the right side. So replacing the two 500-gallon sodium hypochlorite tanks, basically that's due to the age of the tanks. Usually it's about 20 years old right now, so you want to look at replacing those. And then also we noted to periodically inspect the ground storage tank, which the town has done recently. So current capacity from when we looked from September 2023 through August 2024, you're averaging around 900,000 gallons per day. And then your max flow was in June 2024, which as you see here was 2.169. And as I mentioned in the previous or in the opening, that your actual capacity is based off 2.392 million gallons per day for max day. So you are getting pretty close to that number there. Your current connections based off the lead and copper inventory are showing that you have 1,894, which I know is different than what we listed earlier in your MOR. So with that being said, you're looking at about 474 gallons per day average per connection. And with that being said, you can get about 2,523 connections based off your current capacity using that flow per connection. The upcoming developments that are coming in the town that have either been previously approved or are known are listed here. Looking at the flows from those previously approved or upcoming developments that are known is about 445,000 gallons per day, which is 940 connections, which as you see here is about 300 more connections than what's recommended based off your current max day capacity. So when you're looking at the existing capacity of the system, you'll see that it's broken down into three different areas. So one being the wells, one being storage, and the other being high service pumps. There is a typo on this I'll get to in a second, but right now your rated capacity is about 2.4, which is at 2.392, which you see here is based off your storage capacity. Your high service pumps are pretty close to that too. So just an FYI on that. But when we looked at this, we had two recommendations based off the upcoming developments, which is adding that fourth high service pump and also a 500,000 gallon tank in order to have redundancy for your water treatment plant and also to provide capacity. Additionally, we had looked at the distribution system upgrades. We had looked at your existing system model for your water system, and we came up with three projects, which are the upsize for the East Gully Avenue, and then we also looked at meeting fire flow demand, which are the two projects listed there for completing the loop of Lakeshore Drive and Killarney Plaza, and then also the upsizing for Johns Cove Lane. There are three, excuse me, there are three current projects that are listed in your CIP that our understanding is they're either ongoing in design or they are needed in order for completing redundancy in your system. We also looked at the alternative water supply, which was not conducted by us, but that will obviously help with your water demands and also your irrigation, which I'm sure Mike has told you guys about. Another is revisiting the master plan. It was last updated 4 years ago. So due to the known developments and also industry standard of 5 years, updating your master plan, a couple, or at least one project we looked at was a potential of adding an emergency connection with the city of Winter Garden as part of this, which would be something you'd want to look into for emergency services. As the town's population continues to grow, as we stated earlier with the number of connections, your current population is 6,076 based off what's been reported to DEP. And with that, you have to take a certain number of samples based on your population. So the current number that you have to take is 7 bacteriological samples. Town is currently taking 8 in preparation of getting closer to that 6,700 population as you near there. And then on top of that, you're already taking 12 samples a week for your chlorine residual, just to make sure that your system is to standards. So in summary and recommendations, as we were talking about with doing the visual inspection, looking at your capacity and system upgrades, our recommendations were to replace 2 of the 500-gallon sodium hypochlorite tanks, inspecting your ground storage tank periodically, which, as I stated earlier, has already been assessed. So in 5 years, you want to make sure you do that again. And then the ABC booster pump station, that is one item that for irrigation purposes, you'll want to look at adding for being automated. And then also we have adding the 500-gallon storage tank, the 4th high service pump, and then perform the feasibility study to determine the interconnect with the city of Winter Garden, along with the distribution system upgrades that we listed earlier. So with that, we thank you for your time, and if you have any questions or comments, we're here to answer them for you.
Yep, thank you. Thank you. Anyone have any questions on the table?
I have a question, well, Steve or whoever can answer, just lead times, price-wise, location. I mean, how long this is gonna take? Right now, we're at, this amount of residents, but we could max out, I believe, we had talked about before, 9,000.
10, yeah.
Now, those are some of the things that, we want to stay ahead. I don't see none of that here.
No, there's more detail in the full report itself as to where that's going to go. There is land near the existing tank and where the existing well site is over here. For the additional ground storage tank, the 4th high service pump would be in the existing treatment plant yard itself. Timing, construction of a project like that's going to be, I would say 12 to 18 months. Design would be probably a 9 to 12-month range from authorization. So I would say all said, if you guys started planning for it soon, in a couple years, you could have it built.
That'll be everything on this list or just one of the tanks?
That's the main project which drives the capacity of the system.
We're looking at about 2.5 years. From start to finish.
Yeah, and the other projects can be done in parallel with that. There's no necessary order to the different distribution system improvements as well. Those are somewhat tied to some of the development improvements, the developments that will come online to make sure that you have sufficient fire flows and available water capacity associated with it. They are substantially small.
Good. Anything else? Commissioner McMullen, anything?
You didn't answer the price question.
That's a harder thing. Did you actually give, as part of the evaluation, we hadn't provided prices, but I can tell you in $500,000 tank, it's going to be about $1.30 to $1.50 a gallon for a tank of that size. Adding in the other contingencies for somewhere between 1.2 to 1.5 million. And that's conservative without being able to really.
It's good. So based on our landscape, and you see where we are, would this be it? Would this, we would need forever? There's only so much land. We felt we were there 18 years ago, because when I first came here, that was one of the biggest things we had with water storage capacity. It wasn't a water supply issue. I made a mistake. I said it was a meeting, but it was really a water storage. We got that tank.
With, I do believe that it would be all you need for a very long time, unless the composition of the town itself changed.
Some area.
You made fine. And so increased densities, things like that. By doubling the capacity of that, you're going to have more storage than you need, because it also provides you some redundancy to do maintenance on the tank. Pumping is actually easier to add. So you could just add enough. Even that, beyond the capacity, looking at 2.8 on a maximum day, and this is getting you up to around 3. Have some flex in that number.
Mr. Satterfield, anything from you?
No, you've got most of them, and we had some, I don't mean this in a bad way, some pretty vague answers, but they lead us in a general direction. I think we're early enough that that's about the best you can give us. I think.
We tried to keep this as high level as we could.
Yeah.
If you have additional questions.
Thank you. Kelly?
My only thing was in the recommendation from Mr. Parker. He said, direct staff to plan for the certain improvements accordingly. So when we make the motion, my only concern was that that is a little bit vague and maybe clarifying when we do come to whatever motion we want to make that, are we directing them to plan and then come back to us based on costs? Things are in the budget, they can move forward if there are things that obviously funds need to be determined for, we would need to.
Yeah, this is just accepting the report, is all we're doing. So we're not asking them to do anything other than. accepting the report.
Well, and it says, and direct plan.
Oh, yes, it does. Yes.
If I may, the particulars about funding and all of that would have to be brought back before you and voted on. So this is just planning and looking at from a conceptual level how the town would move forward.
Okay. I have a few questions here, and I kind of dived into the report here a little bit. And a couple of things you didn't mention that was in your report was the alternative water supply that was in there. And on one of the pages, you had made a comment, the comment was made that if this system is online fully, the alternative water supply, and that's, and for you guys who don't know, that's a pump system that would pump water out of Lake Apopka, and then that water would go into the reclaim lines, essentially, that's been put into the new communities on the other side of, on the west side of town. On that, you made a comment that if that goes online fully, there's a potential of 3,200 connections that could be brought back, not use it. Did I read that correctly? Where,
Correct. The problem that we saw in the evaluation wasn't with the system itself for the alternative water supply. It's the timing of all the things that are. If you waited for that and you held development until all that was done, you might actually have the capacity you need through the alternative water supply, but you have development pressures now.
understood. So, but I did read that correctly, where if it goes on and let's say it takes 3 or 4 years to put in place, there's a potential of getting 3,200.
Effectively, how that works out is that, and you're correct, that is the way it reads. Because you're transferring some of the irrigation capacity off of it into
Right.
the alternative water supply, and so you get that back for
Right.
potable uses outside of irrigation.
Right. And is that 3,200, is that on top of the current 1,700 connections, or does that include the 1,700 that's there? I couldn't figure that part out when I was trying to cipher out the math. Is it 1,700 plus to equal to 3,200, or is it 3,200 plus the 17? Trying to get detailed. I'm just asking the,
32 total. I'd have to double check.
okay,
I think it just bumps that number from 1,700 up to 32.
okay, all right. We'll go with that right now. And then, so the storage tanks are in place. We have the elevated tank. We have the existing 2 tanks. Are those in place more for pressure to the system, going through the lines to people's houses, or is that just to pump water out of the ground and hold it in place and treat it?
Kind of both. And so let me explain a little bit why it's kind of both. Your elevated tower, right? That's more for pressure maintenance because it's just used up there. And that's why you pump it to an elevated situation because it's providing a pressure from that elevation. Ground tanks don't provide any pressure to the system. It's a water availability that's used to equalize the peak times of the day versus the average times. And so you're able to you keep that water in reserve so your wells don't have to direct pump straight to distribution. You can store it and then pump it out at a higher rate to meet fire flow.
Got it. And then, if you weren't to do a storage tank, is there the option to do change pumps outs to BFDs, or so you have direct pressure and those pumps ramp up RPMs to provide that pressure on peak demands instead of going through a storage tank?
It doesn't really get you the same thing. So the BFDs give you some operational benefits and you might be able to gain some energy efficiency out of that, but it doesn't necessarily offset your storage. There are certain metrics through DEP when you have to permit the ground storage tank, but what capacity you get at, right? In the rule itself, it's written that the standard calculation is for every gallon you put in ground storage, you get 4 gallons of max day capacity. 25% of your capacity needs to be built in.
Mhm.
So you could try to make an exception to that rule, but then you have to do the modeling and the background work to prove that you might be able to get more out of that storage through historical usage, modeling, things like that. And that could be, what you wanted to do was to make that case, you go through the master planning effort, that could be looked at, see what you'd get.
Right. And I guess the same would hold true for the variable speed dry pumps as well. Just kind of the same thing. Where it,
Yeah.
it would ramp up as, at 5 PM when everybody's getting home and they're cooking and whatever, the demand's going to be more than at 2 PM in the afternoon.
VFDs generally, and variable speed,
Yeah.
variable frequency, they help you modulate the flows through different ranges more efficiently.
Okay.
And so sometimes it'll take the place of, you'll have a low flow pump for when there's very little going on in the town, and then you'll have a higher flow pump and they'll still one at a time.
Right.
Alternatively, you could have a pump that could run at half speed and run lower and then ramp up to a higher speed. So you're not really getting more out of it. You're maybe having fewer pumps that serve multiple functions rather than, having the small and stage pump side. And the VFDs also help you, well, you could say just for basic number, so you have 3 1,000 GPM, 3,000 GPM capacity. It's not technically how pumps work, because when you turned all 3 of them on, you might only get 2,700 just by coupling together. When you have VFDs, you could more closely estimate how that's going to work, and you could operate them more efficiently, do these things. That's why you'll gain energy efficiencies, operation.
Okay. That was good. That's good education right there. And the other thing I read in the report talked about our a ground storage tank here. It was noted that there was some possible leakage on the tank itself.
We noticed surficial cracking. And so that doesn't necessarily mean that you have a lot of leakage coming out of it. Sometimes you see a little bit of seepage. And so we generally recommend, as Tucker had mentioned in the presentation, that you should have the manufacturer, Prompt Corporation, come out and do an inspection every 5 years. And they'll come out whenever you need them to do it, but every 5 years is pretty much an industry standard to come out and take a look at it. Concrete, as you know, you see in sidewalks and everywhere else you see concrete, concrete crack. But it doesn't necessarily mean it leaks. On a tank such as this, the way they're constructed is there's actually an internal steel shell that they then pre-stress with wiring, and then they put concrete around that. So that surficial cracking, depending on where it's located and what it looks like, could sometimes mean that there might be a problem, especially like at the base joint, bottom of the tank, or in some other places, maybe like around a pipe penetration. But oftentimes it just means that there might have been a void in the concrete somewhere that then presented as a crack that can be filled and easily repaired. It's more of a maintenance to make sure you get the most life.
Great. All right.
And on top of that, Mike, excuse me, Mike did say that Crom came out recently to look at that crack.
Okay. And
Tank.
It was
no alarms.
nothing. It's not that was.
Okay, great. All right, gentlemen, we appreciate your time. Thanks for letting us ask technical questions.
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks.
I like the technical. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. All right. Moving on. The next item on our other policy matter list is the approval of software licensing and service agreement between the town of Oakland and South Central Planning and Development Commission. We had this before us before, and then we asked to,
Sorry, can we make a motion to accept
Oh.
the last report?
yes, like to entertain a motion on the report.
I'll make
Yeah.
a motion to accept the evaluation report for the water system capacity.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye. Sorry, Elise, we got a little up there.
I'm so engrossed in,
Yeah, the technical stuff.
yeah.
Water. All right, so now moving on to item B on the other policy matters, approval of software licensing agreement, service agreement between Town of Oakland and South Central Planning and Development Commission. This was brought to us a few months ago, and I had asked for a few clarification questions on that. So Elise, do you have that? You want to go over that?
Sure. So this was brought to you in December. and you had some questions. So I went back and talked to SCPDC. The answers to the questions were in the packet, but we were able to make the one change that the mayor had requested on tier 2 and tier 3 issues that they get fixed within 24 hours. So we were able to fix that, and their attorneys have approved that change. The rest of it, they were able to respond to.
Yeah, and I read all those and I was okay for me. Appreciate the change
Mhm.
on that. And just so everybody knows, this program, this agreement is for our building permitting program is what this is. So any questions here? Good. Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the software license and service agreement with South Central Planning and Development.
Second,
Second it.
all in favor? Aye. All right, that carries. Okay, so now we move on to our public forum. This is where we'll address issues that may not be on the agenda tonight. Do we have any takers tonight? Anyone? Come on. Kevin, you got something small? All right.
How big, Kevin? This much?
I was waiting to see if this was important or not.
Always
This is a
important.
small matter.
All important, Kevin.
Jill and I unfortunately have to go on Old Winter Garden Road every now and then. And I wanted to, Old Highway 50, I'm sorry, Old Highway 50. And I wanted to pass around of the roundabouts at Old Highway 50 and 455, you know, the road, how you get to Publix there. At first, you don't notice much, but if you look closely, they probably put thousands of dollars. They have lights, uplighting and everything in these islands. You know, there are two roundabouts there, one north and one south. This is the northern roundabout, and it's all overgrown. The weeds are taller than the landscaping is, and the weeds and grass have all grown into everything. And it just, when you look closely and you really look at it, it looks like a mess. So, you know, Joe was pointing out that on our 24-25 budget, you know, that we're budgeted for, you know, to spend $30,000 on landscaping for our roundabout, not including the brick planter acorn decoration at 75,000. You know, with, I think, you know, over the last month or two, we're all very interested in seeing our roads improved. And with, I was hoping, and maybe we need to delay this to when Mike Parker's here, but the last thing I want to see is an eyesore. And then if also, I took some photographs and didn't present them tonight because I didn't want to take the time, but at our roundabout at eye level, it is really a chore when you're heading west to the roundabout. You've got to look at several locations to point the bikers out. And it's interesting, you know, when you're inside the circle, you're supposed to have the right of way, chief. But with bikes, that's not the case. Bikes do not stop. They go through those intersections. And what happens is when you're in the circle, you have to stop if you're going to exit because there's a bicycle going through. Clogs up the circle and is kind of a mess of how that happens. I'm concerned if you look at the height of the landscaping, that we're not going to be able to see the bikes on the other side. Like when you're heading west and you're looking towards Old Highway 50, starting to look for the bikes and the walkers, that it's going to be difficult to see them if the landscaping is tall or if it gets overgrown. So all that is to say that do we have, how are we going to maintain this? And is it going to look like an eyesore or is it going to?
Thank you, Kevin. All right, right at 3 minutes.
That's a quick wrap up, Kevin.
So I can, and I'll let everybody else have a chance to talk, Kevin. So the roundabout, for our roundabout, has been in the works and has been completed a year maybe, if that much. But it's been in the works for a while, ever since Oakland Trails. And if you recall, that roundabout was in place because of an agreement between Oakland Trails and the amount of traffic coming out, Town of Oakland, Orange County, and FDOT. And Metro Plan as well, was on board of that. And the thought behind that was it didn't work for a traffic light. I mean, it's a necessary evil, unfortunately. It's a necessary evil to have. It didn't work with a traffic light, doesn't work with stop signs. It doesn't work. I think there is a, learning curve on the roundabouts that everybody goes through. And you're starting to see more and more roundabouts throughout the area. And one of the reasons for that is when FDOT evaluates a intersection, they will have a criteria of how they score these. And one of the items they look at is it conducive for a roundabout? Even though roundabouts cost a lot to put in at the beginning, in the long run and over the run of that intersection, it's cheaper than putting in a stoplight because of the maintenance and the headaches that could happen for that. For us, fortunately, for the town, it's our roundabout. We own it, whereas this one here, I'm not sure if it's Lake County or if it's FDOT or whose it is to maintain. So I know a while back, Elise and Mike Parker and I were talking about it, and we were asking the question, who's supposed to maintain it? Mike Parker said that it's the town's responsibility to maintain, similar to what they do now, where they go out and they mow it along with the property that's to the southwest corner of that roundabout. As for the acorn and the masonry wall that will go around it, I feel myself, I'm not speaking for anybody else, that having that as a placemaking entrance into the town coming from the west, I think is kind of important for us. I like the idea of having something like that. I'd like to see the same, not this same thing, but something similar to a placemaking monument sign, something coming from the, Winter Garden coming in where you're on Oakland Avenue and you see it. Something very simple. As far as landscaping, at least you can back me up. I don't know, but I don't believe there's any landscaping plan that's been completed yet, or I don't know where we're at on anything as far as last I heard, nothing started yet.
Correct. So Mike Parker's on vacation, but he's very diligent about responding. So he told me this morning, there's nothing planned for that, but we can definitely do Florida friendly, drought resistant type plants in there to reduce the irrigation demand.
Or that. Anybody else have any comments?
We've been looking forward to that, and it won't be an eyesore. I promise you. We all vouch for that, and it's going to be really nice and taken care of. Yes, FDOT will not take care of it. Our responsibility. Now, I am concerned about the pedestrians. I am concerned about the bikers and walkers. You make a great point, and I'm sure once we get the acorn on there, people should be able to be the visual slow down because of the acorn. Right now, it's just plain flat grassland that people just drive fast because there's nothing to see. I think that the acorn is going to slow some of the traffic down, but it's a big concern that you just mentioned. We should address, because there is a lot of bikers and walkers who just take the lead, and the people driving around it don't know if they should stop for them or continue.
And Commissioner, and I think that this particular roundabout is unique in a way where there is a trail that goes around the side of it, and not, you look at the roundabout at the one going to Montverde, it doesn't have anything like that. So yeah, as a driver, you have to be mindful of what's there. And as I've seen walking down the trail, and I'm sure most of you guys have, regardless, even though there are stop signs on the trail to cross a road, they do not stop. Bikers, walkers, everybody, runners, they just go right through. I know we've had a couple instances where I personally witnessed a guy get hit because he ran right through while the car was taking off, and not. So those are issues that happen. There's one thing to keep in mind that the trail is not the town of Oakland, it's Orange County that maintains that and owns that trail. We're just fortunate enough to have it run through the middle of our town. I think what we do is, if you guys are okay, maybe when Parker gets back, we can kind of dive into it more and maybe get a schedule together on what it looks like to get that ball rolling, because I know it's been a while to do something.
Yeah, it would be nice to share the renderings once again with options of landscaping. You know, we could be doing low shrubs. It doesn't have to be necessarily high ones. For that to occur.
Yeah.
Plus, if you put any high landscaping, it's gonna take away from the acorn anyways. So,
Yes, we can come back with something.
Yeah, I like Hamlin where they got the perennial peanut that pops up and the yellow flowers all over the place. I think that looks
What's it called?
perennial peanut,
Perennial peanut.
perennial peanut or peanut grass. Yes, perennial
Okay.
peanut. It's
Okay,
little
thank
yellow
you.
flowers. It's great. Yeah, it's slow and it's just creates a nice, yeah. It's a I think it's a Florida native plant too. Write it down, at least perennial peanut.
This is just one informative tonight.
Anything else from Mike or Commissioner Keller, anything?
That was-
Commissioner
that was
McMullen?
Points well taken, though.
Good.
It would probably behoove us, if we haven't, to sit out there and kind of watch it ourselves to get a good gauge of it also.
Yeah.
So I will.
I can
And-
tell you, I drive through that roundabout every day on my way to work, and I think it's it's a combination of, the traffic that kind of goes through our town, goes through that roundabout. Like I said, I drive that way every day to work, and even like coming home today, the traffic going the opposite direction, going west, was all backed up, and I've gone to work even in the mornings where the traffic is stopped in the roundabout. So unfortunately, that intersection hasn't really gotten better because of the roundabout, but, and again, I think that it's a combination of people need to be driving a little slower in the roundabout and and the fact that the bicyclists just kind of believe that they have
Mhm.
the complete right of way and people not paying attention. I actually got honked at. I stopped for a bike one day and a guy behind me honked, and then he saw the person was on one of those laying down bikes.
Yeah.
And then he was like, "Oh, sorry,"
Yeah, You can't
so-
see them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's definitely some cause for concern around there. Just be mindful.
I just want to reiterate what the mayor said. Thank you, Mr. Keller, but is the landmark coming in west from Winter Garden on Oakland Avenue and on Colonial would be something nice. And if we can piggyback while we already have a contractor putting brick and mortar on the roundabout, to go ahead and put a column with an acorn that says, "Welcome to Oakland," coming in from Winter Garden, because we don't have that identity. We have the Grove now, but, we don't have our Oakland column.
Something easy. Kevin, did that help out at all? I don't know if it did or not, but yeah. Okay, you're welcome. Mike Parker we'll get him on the spot. when he gets back. Anyone else like to talk about anything? Yes, sir. Scott, how are you?
Scott Wren, 305 Edge Grove. I'll touch on the roundabout. As a trail user and a driver, when I saw the design before it went in, I did not like it because of how close the trail was placed to the entrances and access of the roundabout. It seems like trails throughout the state have been moving the trail user interactions much closer to intersecting roadways, whereas the older trails like the Withlacoochee State Trail, the trail would go back 3, 4, 5 car lengths away from the actual intersection. And I feel that design is safer. Why it's gotten moved up. But another comment to remind everybody, Florida has a state law that you are supposed to yield for pedestrians and crosswalks. So when people are approaching, there are bicyclists that do stop. And if somebody's stopping, I stop. Honk at me, go ahead. That's our Florida law, is it not, Chief? Nobody knows about it because it's not really publicized.
I would have to disagree with that. If they looked at our Facebook page, we have done so much education on how to safely and properly and legally negotiate a roundabout. We've put it out, I can't count how many times, showed diagrams that are issued by DOT, how to legally negotiate a roundabout, how to do these things. And yes, we are supposed to yield to pedestrians in a crosswalk, but the vehicles as they enter the roundabout are not doing it lawfully. And it's resulted in crashes and things like that. And we get out there and try to educate when we can. I have a plan, just listening to I have a plan, and we'll probably do something here in the near future. But, you know, the drivers themselves, if the car in front of them enters the roundabout, they feel like it's okay to enter as well, and that's not the truth. You have to yield to the other vehicles that are there first. That's not what's happening. And if you stand there and watch it, you can watch cars just following each other in. That's what's causing the crashes. The bicyclist, I too am a cyclist, you have to pay attention. You can't just say, I'm not going to stop because they're supposed to yield. You have to pay attention and it requires you to stop. Those stop signs are not enforceable by us, as you know. But we will do what we can do to provide additional education to people, drivers and pedestrians and cyclists.
Thank you. That's all we
Thank
can
you.
ask for. Thanks.
Yeah, it's tricky because there's not enough room for a car to yield at that intersection without backing up the traffic circle like somebody mentioned. So that was my one comment for that. My other comment is about our upcoming road project or in-process road project. Are there any plans? I've talked to the guys that are doing the road for the apron between our driveways and the current road. It sounds like we're getting a strip of pavement, which is going to leave a speed bump for everybody to get out of their driveway. They say they're not doing the apron. Is the town going to bring in material that matches our roads? So we have congruency and
I can't answer that. Mike Parker could answer that, but I will tell you that on the other roads, I don't know how they did it on Hall Avenue. If they did aprons or did they just taper it down where you could get off of the road?
Tapered into the driveway apron,
Right.
which is
Okay.
working really good according to some of the residents I've talked to on Whole Avenue.
yeah, I had driven around and looked at all the roads and it been, some go to the concrete if it's close. If the driveway's gravel, it just, comes in a foot and stops.
Yeah.
And so it's varied everywhere.
I will say on the paved of Hinchin, they did do aprons
Yeah,
into
the
off
dri-
of the road because the road's only 12, 14 foot wide. It's
Right.
single lane.
So just something to put out there.
Yeah.
Crossing our fingers.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. And just to piggyback off of that discussion of the roads, I know that they're working on that. They're getting that together. They were scraping the roads. Folks, don't drive on the trail. So today I was in town hall today and we saw how many? Three cars, six turning and going down. Well, they were doing construction, I think. So we saw one car going this way, a couple of cars going down this way. I don't run out to stop them. They ignored and ran away. But just, you never know, so, but they are moving along. So it'd be, interesting to see, how quick. And I know that, again, once these roads get together, I know we have other residents that are anxious and they have the same issues that we have out here and trust me, we're addressing those. The town is going to, do a traffic study along with the road study as well. And with that that will determine, everybody talks about speed limits and speed limit signs. So that consultant will sit there and say, this road's rated for 20 miles an hour. This road's rated for 25 and all that stuff. And chief, correct me if I'm wrong, but you can't enforce a road unless it's rated for that particular speed, correct?
Yes, we can, if the traffic study rates a road at 25 and we change the speed limit to 20, we can't enforce the 20, we have to enforce it at whatever the study has revealed this speed.
So that person would have to go 30 miles over this.
Correct,
down
before
the-
we can issue a citation. We can pull them over for 1 mile and over, 1 mile an hour over, but you can't issue a citation before 5 miles an hour.
So-
So that's
so-
why it does not behoove us to lower speed limits when the rating is as such. So if a rating says 35, it doesn't help us as a town to change it to 20 because it's not enforceable.
Right.
Make sense?
Yeah, it does. So with that study, then it will determine to say, hey, Star Street is 20 miles an hour and anybody going 26 miles an hour, you get a ticket. There's a 5 mile an hour grace period over that. So you get a speeding ticket if they catch you. So
I say we don't let people know what's rated.
Yeah,
I rated it 10 and
fool 'em. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so that's, and inside that, they'll also rate the speeds, and it'll also rate what intersections will need a stop sign, you know, what's for a stop sign, so. You know, those are things those are things that are coming on the horizon once we get these roads kind of the way we want them a little bit. So. Anyone else? We're still in the public forum. I was publicly speaking there. Nothing? Okay, we'll close the public forum. All right. Town manager.
Okay, I just have a couple things. The first one is the Charter Review Committee has been busy. We met Monday, March 31st and Monday, April 7th, since the last time that the commission met. All the agendas, meeting videos, and approved minutes are on the website for review. We worked through the first 3 articles of the charter, and we're looking at the next 3 for future. But I just found out today the Supervisor of Elections Office will be sending a representative to our next meeting, which is good, so we can talk through some issues with them. They will bring some maps, and we'll be able to actually ask them questions and talk about processes and things like that. So I think that'll be very productive. And then I'm going to steal Mel's thunder just a little bit, but we extended an offer to a town clerk candidate. She accepted. So we're doing all of the processing, the background checks and everything. And then I will have to bring that forward at the April 22nd meeting for official approval by the commission. And then she will hopefully be able to start in May.
Sure you're happy about that. We all are. Is that it?
That is it.
All right, we'll start. Melody, you got anything? Is there? No.
No, like Elise said, we have put an offer in with a lady for our town clerk. We're just opened up for a utility billing supervisor again. And then utility tech. That's all we have right now. So everything else is going good.
So Oakland's hiring, tell your friends.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, it's all out there. So.
Okay, great. All right, Lynn, there's a whole bunch of things that are happening in town over the next several weeks. So tell us what's happening.
Yes, there's a whole bunch of things happening. Yes. Well, this Saturday, as you all, I'm sure know, is our Celebration Among the Oaks event. We're doing last minute details for that. It runs from 10 to 1. The helicopter egg drop will be at 12:30. We're expecting a big crowd for that. And then this Thursday is the farmers market day. And we also on the second, well, no, I'm sorry, it's the first Thursday, farmers market day. We also have story time on the porch, and I'm not sure if you're all aware of that, but if you have grandkids or little toddlers, Orange County Library comes out and they do a story and songs and sometimes a craft. It's at 10 o'clock. And last month we had 68 total between adults and toddlers. The Fit for Moms Club, they come to the farmers market and they push their strollers and exercise, and they always make sure they bring a good crowd to the story time on the porch. So we look forward to that every month. It's really cool to see all these little toddlers singing and strumming the guitar. So that's coming up. And then May 17th is our second car stroll. And we're working on the details for that. If you have or know of anybody that has cars to submit, feel free. We're still accepting any kind of cars.
Thanks. Chief?
I don't have anything. Thank you.
Okay, one thing I will, Lynn, just real quick, for the Oakland Nature Preserve, there's a flyer Firefly hikes that are going in the evening, and there's select dates for that. I don't know if it's on the table there, but I got an opportunity to go last week. It was pretty cool to see them. I haven't seen them since I was a kid around here, but it's pretty cool to go down. They'll let you go down the boardwalk to the lake and stuff like that, see them. So check that out. That's just something our town has that's unique. Okay, Commissioner Mullen, anything from you today?
Yeah, 3 activities since we were last here. When I, last meeting, I left here that Tuesday night. Went up to Tallahassee, spent some time with James Harris, our lobbyist, and, just went around, spoke to several state legislators, just, sharing our story. Of course, we have, we don't have Senator Thompson anymore. They have not, and they're not sure when they're going to fill her position. So another senator from Jacksonville has sponsored our bill. And so Mike Breen, which is a great, person who was her aide, still there. And the Senate president made sure that he is still in place. And I even ran into him in the House when he was looking to make sure that our appropriation is still being moved. And he's working real hard for us. That's Jessica's brother. So it was good to see Mike, walking around. James Harris, we met with people from the appropriation office, several state legislators, because it's not just our state legislators that are going to be able to push it. It has to be others to know who we are to push that narrative. And so it was real good. Had a good day when I spent up there, just talking to the state legislators and making sure they knew who we were, along with ensuring that the current person who's not even from our area who was sponsoring us because of our laws of Senator Thompson understands our need, along with Bracy that's up there in the state house, Bruce Antone that's outside of our area. Again, making sure that they understand and continue to support us, what they did last year. So we want to make sure that happens. Secondly, last week, I was a part of a conference. It's called the Southern Municipal Conference. It was about 15 state municipal, leagues of cities around the country, as far west as Texas, Oklahoma, all the way up to Maryland. It just really, they meet every year. And by me being a part of the Florida League of Cities Executive Board, I was able to go to that conference that was sponsored by the Florida League of Cities. And you'll be interested to hear some of the same things that are happening in Florida is happening in all different states. They're having budget issues. I give you an example, Northern Virginia. Virginia's having a hard time because of some of the federal workers layoffs. So they're going to have some budget crunches. There's a lot of state legislators that are fighting with the locals, giving these unfunded mandates. So some of the same things that we're dealing here with. There's some challenges inside state houses. And then they're also talking about election process, just like, that we have here, trying to make sure elections are in a certain kind of process, or sometimes they're trying to push it on certain dates. There was one state, I can't remember, but they have an election every single month, some part of the state. So it's just interesting to hear that, whatever we're dealing with here in Florida, as far as the state and local municipalities, are some of the same things that we're dealing, that's being, that's happening in other parts of the country. But it's good to be a part of that conference because you can, kind of talk to each other and lean on each other and get some advice. Florida kind of led the conversation because each had the chance to report. With Florida, being so involved and having one of the best league of cities, kind of led the conference as far as just how we're doing things. And Casey Cook, who's our lead state legislator, really was the one they leaned on. And then the last thing I just wanted to say, tonight, I wasn't able to go, but the Orlando Magic gave me 20 tickets, and 5 kids from Oakland are at the game right now. And our very own Adrian Cowens is the chaperone tonight. So we have about, he and someone else, I think it's Gabby, his niece. But they have about 5 kids from the town of Oakland at the game tonight. They were able to go to the game, meet the players, see their practice. They got T-shirts and all kind of swag bags. I'm waiting for Adrian to send some pictures. And also I was able to get some kids from Evans High School to go as well. So as we're sitting here in the meeting, some of our kids in our town are really having a good time. But that was it.
Thank you. And thank you for going to Tallahassee representing. Appreciate it. Commissioner Ramos.
I only have one thing to add for the Thursday.
Thursday evening, we're having the West Orange Golden Eagle Award 2025 in Ocoee. Commissioner Keller's coming with us. I don't know who else is going to be joining us. Like Commissioner McMullen, Vice Mayor, and I don't know if you.
Out of town.
Okay, you're out of town. So, well, it's gonna be a great time to, the award again is, the Eagles are gonna go to Shannon Till from State Farm, Joe Bosch, and Matt, the president of the Winter Garden Rotary. So there's great guys. It's gonna be a great event, and, there's gonna be a contest. Are you smarter than a scout? With prizes. So get your wits sharp and ready to go for if anybody has been in Boy Scouts before. Bring your talent to see if you can outwit a scout. I hope to see you guys there.
Thank you. Thank you. Commissioner Keller.
So yesterday, on my day off from my other job, I had the privilege and the opportunity to tour Oakland Avenue Charter School and meet with the principal and meet the staff and see some kiddos learning. And it was great to visit the campus and learn more about the great little school that we have. And I spent the afternoon with the chief and visited the police department and got to meet some of the other officers and learn a little bit more about their operations. So it was fun.
Great. Great. Commissioner Satterfield.
Spent time with the police. Oh, no. You know, so, just, as far as the school goes, just, I'm sure we all know that, Kayla was canceled this Friday. We, rather transfer to next year, so hopefully we'll have an even bigger and better one.
Nothing for me, Commissioner McMullen.
If all hearts and minds are satisfied, let's adjourn. It is 7:57 PM.
Thank you, everybody.